Okay. I will start to introduce us slowly. My name is Mary Brown. I'm the guide manager at Alpine Ascents. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Wednesday evening to take a deep dive into one of the best things about spring in the Pacific Northwest, ski mountaineering. Whether you're eyeing your first ski descent or you're gearing up for bigger objectives, this webinar is for you. And leading us through tonight is none other than guide extraordinaire Lyra Pierotti. She is an IFMGA guide, so basically the PhD of guiding, and her passion for skiing and climbing has taken her all over the world. Washington, the French Alps, Alaska, Antarctica, South America, Russia, and her personal favorite, the Dolomites. She's a senior guide, runs our internal guide trainings, and leads trips across Washington, and somehow still finds time to operate her own personal training business, Momentum. Oh, and she's also an AIRE Pro instructor, helping train the next generation of avalanche professionals. Basically, she's got the experience, the expertise, and the stoke. Stick around till the end, and you'll get a code for 10% off our brand new ski crevasse rescue course. And this will be happening at Snoqualmie Pass and Stevens Pass. And Lyra is actually leading them. But before we get started, a couple housekeeping notes. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, just pop them in the Q&A box and we'll answer them throughout. And I will be moderating the chat and hopefully popping in some helpful links. And those are the housekeeping notes. Lyra, over to you.
Okay, but this time we have to intro you because you're presenting like half of this, which is awesome.
You can intro me.
Yeah. Okay. So hi, this is Mary, one of my dear friends and the best manager of guide services that I've ever had. And you will see in this some of the adventures we have had and some fun photos of the lovely spring ski mountaineering objectives. It's just like kind of the best thing. It's all time in Washington. But Mary, guide manager, does a lot of the creative thinking and is the big mind behind a lot of these events that I think are really helpful and help connect people to the task that we are like to the sport, to the progression, to the learning. And that's something that I know as a guide I really appreciate because that's what it's really all about. It's about getting out and continuing to improve and cultivating positive experiences. And the more that all of you get more skill, the more we can all go and do together. And especially for a Washington base of skiers and climbers, it is just endless, seemingly. So.
Oh, thanks so much for the introduction. So sweet.
Well, okay. I have some questions for the audience first. Are we ready? Oops, that's Jeopardy. Oops, you didn't hear me say that. That's for later. Okay, everybody please, who is on this call, go to menti.com while I figure out how to share my screen. I got it. Desktop 2, there we go. So many screens, gosh. Menti.com, and you will see menti.com, and you have a question there to answer. This one's kind of hard, so I'm going to give y'all some time. What I'm looking for is basically just to kind of see who's here, what your background is in a relatively efficient manner. But what I'm looking for is your bullet, very like brief list of the process of crevasse rescue. I'm not asking for a novel, just a bulleted list. Like what comes first? What are the big bullet points? It might take you a minute to put them in order, but work on those and we'll sit here awkwardly while we wait. Let me know. We have the chat open too. So if you have trouble accessing this, please feel free also to put it in the chat and then I can make note of them. Oops, it's not working. Why aren't you working? There we go. Nope. There we go.
I just love Menti. It's so fun.
It is so fun. So the main events. involved. I'll give you the first one. Stop the fall. So start there. Stop the fall. Then what? What do you do? And don't worry about being perfect or correct. Don't worry about the right terminology. Just say what you got, and I'll try to fill in any gaps as I see them. Basically, we're looking for, or in this webinar, we're going to focus a little bit on like how the things are different in ski mountaineering. Yeah, stop, hold the fall. Ooh, attach. Yeah, sick. Love it. Great. Yeah, now you have, yep, stop the fall. Hopefully they were roped. Good question. Yep, assess their location and condition. They may need some assistance. Great, nice work, y'all. Set up anchors, rig up the rescue, and then get them out or help them out. I love helping people. Great. Awesome. Yeah. We got 2. How many of you are there? What do we got? 9? Have more come in? 12. Yeah. Hell yeah. Nice work. Nice, y'all. Feel free to just put something, even if it's not just whatever. Yep. Step 3-1. Medical. Nice. Love it. Yep. Yeah. And as you can see, y'all are going to get like, oh yeah, there's that component. That's important. The rescue as guides, when we are examined in crevasse rescue, both in the alpine and the ski mountaineering disciplines, a big thing we have to do is tend to an injured skier. So that is part of it, and that goes into the whole rescue. And that's a thing that we can teach too. Already a really good note that in skiing, you're probably not roped up and falling in. That's a thing. Prepare to, yeah, good work. Lip of the crevasse can be treacherous, and it can cause someone to get corked. That is a thing we can only really show in the field, getting corked. Well, not show, safely demonstrate how not to do it. But yeah, prepping, love it. That was just a secure 2-point anchor. Ooh, might not need, that's a good segue, because the first thing I'm going to show you here in a minute is you may not need, and you probably won't need or want to take time to have a 2-point anchor, but make sure it is big, real big. And I'll show you some key parts about how that's different. I thought that said make eye contact. That's funny. Yes, what you got?
What is getting corked? I've actually never heard that term before.
Oh, it's a good one. It is kind of an awful thing. It's when you do take a roped fall and the crevasse lip is really gnarly and overhanging, the person can get underneath like a roof of snow. And if you don't clear that away and create a really gentle ramp, they can get like stuck under it. And in the 70s, I think there was a really terrible story about a practice seminar in an Alaska range where someone got corked, and they pulled and they kept pulling and they kept adding more mechanical advantage, and they broke the person's femur. Yeah, sorry. Should have warned you. Gross. So don't do that. Getting corked. That was like early in my Alaska guiding career. I was told that story and I was like, corked. Don't do it. Gross. Okay, let's move on. Next one. How? We already kind of went into this. How is crevasse rescue different in a ski context? Your phone should move on to the next slide. So what are the big differences? We mentioned a couple already. No rope. Good chance. To be honest, more and more I am roping up, going uphill on glaciers, but it is so terrible to try to ski roped up downhill. Sometimes necessary, but terrible. Not fun. So if you can travel uphill with a rope on, recommended, especially with how the glaciers are getting more dynamic every year. I'm just more and more alarmed by what I see, even in the springtime. Like last spring, we had a big melt in the early spring, and then some big storms that put a lot more snow And what we found was like we have a lot of communication networks and email groups amongst the Washington guide community. And it was just guides everywhere were just like, gosh, this crack was wild. Like we punched in a ski here and like everyone was fine, but we were all just like, wow, this is noted. So we were all getting alerted pretty quickly to that dynamic and acting a lot more conservatively in the mountains. So if you see guides being more conservative out there, that's why. We are all in communication across the state, and we get really rapid updates to what's going on. Yeah, so if that makes sense, like cracks were opening, then they got more snow over them in the late spring, and then it was like you couldn't see them real bad. Skis on, you got it. Climber, yeah, climbers would already have their harnesses. And if you are skiing on a glacier, you should absolutely be skiing in your harness. That is definitely critical. Some even go a bit further to have a chest harness on because you're more likely to get corked, if that makes sense. If your crevasse is shaped like this, even if it's small, you can get wedged in there pretty badly. So some have gone so far as to even have like a higher clip-in point. I'm wearing my harness so you can't see it. But they would go even so far as to like extend the belay loops so that you could be clipped in here if you got corked. So that's a thing to consider. I don't personally do that, but it's a thing that I often think about. So you got it wedged. Yep, good one. Yeah, and the crevasse is probably bigger, but not necessarily. Sometimes even just walking off of a track, if you can fall into smaller ones that are just right parallel with your skis, and you're dealing with more coverage over glaciers. But certainly as we experience more dynamic weather with climate change, we are getting different coverage of those glaciers, different melt, and as I mentioned, the storm patterns can be variable. So it's not just like winter input of snow and spring melt by any means. It's getting a lot more complex. Great. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna unshare and then do the next thing. Close. Okay. Are we ready for Jeopardy? We are full of games today, which is great. Let's see. Oops. That's not what I want to do. Nope. Slideshow. Okay. So the easiest way, what do you think, Mary? We've got 10 people here. I'm going to share my screen again.
Yes.
Shall we have everyone unmute? That's not too many.
It's a webinar, so there's actually no way for people to unmute.
Oh, that's right. Okay. It's going to be a test of how quickly you type.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so we'll watch the chat. We're in the chat, not the Q&A. Queue up your chat. And let's just start the first one. Mary, why don't you start the first one? Ready?
Yes, they're ready.
Go for it. And anybody can guess. So Mary will choose it. And then if you form the question, or this will provide the answer, classic Jeopardy. Answer in the form of the question that was asked. And the first one in the chat we'll say your name and hopefully not say it terribly wrong. Apologies.
Yeah.
And you will then get to pick the next one. Okay, Mary, go for it. Which one?
Okay, Lyra, can I have, for this classic Pacific Northwest ski split descent for 200?
For this one, you will pass the lunch counter en route to Pikers Peak, False Summit, and views of several other.
Yay, Craig!
What is Mount Adams? Nailed it. Okay, Craig. Great. Keep track of your own score. All right, Craig, next one. What do you got, Craig? Tell us the next one. Classic for 600. Okay. You'll ski up and over a Cascade volcano and end up back at your car. The suspense kills me. Technological lag time. Who's got it? One Cascade volcano. There's only like 5. Well, I guess I gave away part of the answer. One of the Washington ones. Who's got it? Throw out some names. See what sticks. Oh. Up, and that's correct, actually. Good job. We'll take it. Okay, next, we were also thinking the Southwest Chutes of Mount Adams.
Oh.
But you're absolutely right. Oh, look at that. See, catches in an error. Craig, nailing it. What's the next one? Classic 400. Yeah, stick with the theme. You got the right idea. You may get a whiff of sulfur and think it's your climbing partner. Where's the rest of the team? We got like 2. Oh, Mount Shasta. Mount Hood. Oh. Mount Hood. Does Mount Hood get sulfuric?
I feel like it does.
Yeah, I think I'd take that one. Craig, you're crushing it. Wait, Caldera and Mount Baker. Nope, Ellie or Eli. That was the one we were thinking. Okay, new person. Sorry, Craig, you're demoted. Eli. What is the caldera on Mount Baker? That's the one we were going for. Very sulfuric. Really cool. For the first time a couple years, last year, I skied the barbecue tour where you go into the caldera.
Oh dear.
Hilarious. Okay, Eli or Ellie. It did, yeah. Okay, Mount Hood. Yeah, I think it does get sulfuric. I think y'all are right. Okay, we were going for Baker though. Let's go for Baker. What you got for us, Ellie? Eli? I know both. Or we can choose one.
We should go back to the panel.
I should go back to the so you can see. Sorry. New cat. So we just went through all the classic ski split. Don't run with scissors or the attraction of traction. Ellie, got it. Ellie, there, go for it. What do you want, Ellie? You got it. Don't run with scissors. 200. This critical piece of mountaineering equipment is often securely stored on your pack when skiing and may be stowed inside if it's short enough. Pro tip in that one there. What is the axe? You got it, Craig. Oh my gosh, you again. Honestly. Okay, Craig, what's the, you got it. Ice axes must be very securely stored on your pack. And when skiing, the big thing that's like, we really encourage folks to get a shorter axe because then you don't have this like terrifying sharp thing above you when you're skiing around. And it just makes you keeping a pack really svelte and compact in skiing and splitboarding makes the ride a lot better. That axe with some, if you go to the Alps, for example, you have to put your axe inside your packs because you can like slice people when you're on crowded trams. Different. We don't have that problem here in North America generally. However, I do, when possible, I'll slide it into like my rescue, the little pouch with my shovel when possible, unless I'm like, I need to have it at the ready. But anyway, lots of style things there. And let me go back to, okay, that was don't run with scissors, 200. Next from Craig, scissors for 600. Going big. If a slip and fall is possible when skiing, some will carry this attached to their pole. And this is, yeah, whip it. Terry, good job. Yay, somebody new. Good. Terry, got in there. What do you got? What's the next category? We have, what do we have left? Scissors for 400. Love it. This piece of avalanche rescue equipment doubles as a crevasse checking device. No. That would be cool though. Not a beacon. No. Well, shovel. No, you have to get too close. Too close. Crevasse checking. Probe. Steve. Yeah. New name. We love it. Yeah, probe. Probe allows you, sometimes when I'm on a glacier on my skis, I'll carry my probe in like my hand, or if you have a loop-de-loop, I'll like clip it to a carabiner, to my backpack or to my harness, and then I'll grab it and I'll poke ahead of me to see if I get any hollow areas. So probes, we love them. All right, Steve, you got the attraction of traction. 600. All right. Okay. All right, Steve. These traction devices are named for the animal part from which they originated. This one's legit 600 points right here. Who knows it? Mohair? No, but kind of yes. Who has a different answer? Animal part. Skins. Yeah, you got it. Okay, great. Yeah, so animals, the original skins for skiing came from, or at least one story that I've heard is that they came from like the Finns, the Finnish people that did a lot of like hunting and skiing on snow. And like lots of people of northern latitudes could get the skin of a seal, and it's very hydrophobic, and you'd slide and then the hairs would grip. That is precisely what climbing skins are modeled after. Kind of cool. All right, what's next? Attraction of traction. Craig, just crushing. 400 or 200? Great. I anticipated that. Getting to know this person here. These traction devices attach directly to your boots and assist with steeper ascents when you want to move more nimbly over the terrain. Yes, yes, good work, Terry. Reading fast there. Okay. You don't get a choice. Sorry. Attraction of traction, 200. Everybody ready? Last one. And whoever gets this one right wins. These traction devices attach to your skis to assist with traction in icy and firm snow conditions when you want to keep your skis on your feet. Ski crampons, nailed it. We got the Sharps Pro over here. Got Terry, nice work. Excellent. That is it. Okay, thanks, y'all. Dun dun. I should have cued the music, but I didn't. Did I stop my share there? Excellent. All right. All right. We got next. With that, what I would like to do, I stopped my screen share, right? I just have my notes up. Okay. I can't hear you. I think you muted.
I said yes.
Okay, great. All right. So next, I just want to go into, I'll show you a few things. I've got my ski set up back here. I just want to go over a few things, the critical differences between standard and ski mountaineering crevasse rescue. Before I do that, please in the chat, put a list of the most common knots and hitches that you should know for crevasse rescue, AKA what you already know. Like what are your go-to knots and hitches for crevasse rescue? Oh no, but how do we know? It was probably Craig.
Honor system. I don't know.
Send us your point value. Love it. I think we can figure it out. We'll look back at the chat. Clove hitch. Okay. Good, Ellie. Hitches for prussics. Good. Uh-huh. Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You have to use a comma in the chat. If you hit enter to make it like a bulleted list, it as you just figured out, Ellie. Yeah. Zoom. I wish they would do that. There's no way to like separate your text. Figure 8. Yep. Figure 8. Clove hitch. Good ones. Clove hitch is going to be actually a really big one. That's the one that we're going to focus on here in a moment. One of the big differences as you're riding here is you really don't want a big bulky rope to enjoy skiing and riding. So that throws a lot of, also, if you're not going to be tied together all the time, you fall in a crack, you want to make sure your partner also has a rope. So often you're carrying 30 or 40 meter segments of rope, each person or multiple people. If you have a team of 4, you might have two 40-meter ropes, for example, or a 40 and two 30s would be probably the way I would go with it. And I do more and more carry a 40-meter rope. Okay, I will move on to my list. So the main things we want to know, or the main knots would be a figure 8 and an overhand, and both of those tied on a bight, B-I-G-H-T. That means a loop, essentially, of rope. And then for prusiks, there are 3 types that I commonly use, and those 3 types are the prusik standard, the Klemheis, and the auto block. Then the munter and the clove hitch, also hitches, but those are, rather than being a certain material tied onto a rope, they are made out of the rope, if that makes sense. And then with the munter, knowing the munter mule is a little advanced, but if you are at this level, good to know those. Okay, so let's get on to a few collection of things. And thank you, Mary. The Great Animated Knots is a really good website to refresh. I always recommend practicing a knot or two with like a length of rope at bedtime. It seems to be, that's how I originally learned a lot of these knots. And I found it was just really effective. Like I would just do a few knots before going to sleep. And I swear my brain just like integrated them a little faster, which was cool. Grog Knots is my favorite app. That's another one. All right. So the first thing, let me back up here. You are with anchoring, you will be carrying an ice axe probably, but recommended to use your skis. So someone pops into a crevasse and you stop in a safe spot, you probe out the whole area, make sure you're not standing on another crevasse, and then you build an anchor, and you can do so with your skis. You will notice, however, that skis can be kind of squirrely. So you put them together, and I have brakes on these ones. I don't have brakes on all of them, but these, put those together. Let's see, put those there. You need to make sure, how's my sound as I'm standing up here, Mary? Good. All right, y'all need to make sure that these sharp edges, especially, hopefully you did sharpen them for ski mountaineering because it can be icy and steep in that season, but then you need to make sure they are not going to cut your rope. So how do you do that? On my poles, I carry ski straps all the time. So, and 2 of them, oh gosh. So I take these off of my poles, whoops, 1 and 2. And I'm going to secure these so they don't slide at all. Okay, there's 1. And the bottom, so both ends. And if you don't have brakes, if you do have brakes and they're secure, you might get away with just 1 strap, but I would recommend 2 straps. It doesn't hurt. Your anchor is everything, literally, right? Okay. Okay, there we go. Nice and secure. The other reason we use skis, you could use an axe. So here's my ski mountaineering axe. And this one, you usually carry pretty small and light axes, as we already discussed, and for ski mountaineering anyway. And you're on mostly pretty soft snow. So there are limitations to the anchor strength of a little thing like this versus a giant anchor like so. Great. Okay, so now you need to get your rope attached to it. The next principle of ski mountaineering rescue is, next principle, you just want everything to be as small and light as possible. So you're carrying a really skinny and a light and a shorter rope because you have multiple, and you're probably not carrying a lot of extra equipment. So one thing you can do, pretty standard setup would be with your anchor just to girth hitch an ice axe. That might be something you're used to. girth hitches. So a girth hitch would be like this. Not best practice for skis because they can cause them to roll. So what do you do instead? If we do a clove hitch, little more cumbersome. Okay, so there's a clove hitch over the entire ski. Now, this can also cause it to roll a little bit, but there's an easy fix. Watch carefully. Oops, tangle myself. I'm going to go over the entire ski so that I'm pulling off of the opposite side. This is kind of advanced, might be a little confusing. This is something we do with you in person. Now, you are pulling from this clove hitch, but you are pulling off of this side. So my direction of pull is now this way, and you are far less likely to cause your skis to rotate in your anchor position where you have softer snow. So making sure that your skis don't move when you are on them and like rappelling in to go grab your partner or hauling someone else is crucial. Okay, so that's a best practice there. Now you ask, but what if I don't have enough equipment, or I did something funny with it, or I don't know what, or you're just really thinking through exactly how much stuff you want to carry, and you're like, I think I want that double length sling for my own setup, getting into the crevasse to help administer first aid or something. Maybe if there's a good chance if they took a long fall, they're probably injured. So what I can also do, here's my rope. This is 30 meters of rad line. That is it. What I can also do is take a giant loop and tie an overhand or a figure eight on a bite with a giant loop, and do the exact same thing I just did with, this is a very snaggly process. Clove hitch on that rope. Same thing. I'm going to pull that way, but I want to go off the other side of the rope of the skis. There we are again. Same pro move. Clove hitch. You could also just do you could probably argue that it is reasonable to just put the rope around the skis. I like to make them nice and secure. And that is how they are then going to pull. So you can see, if I turn this at an angle, this is exactly how you are going to be pulling on your skis. They pull off the back. And in that manner with the clove hitch inverted, super, super stable. So there would be a best practice solution to that. Do I have any questions so far on that? And then I'll move on to some other tips.
There are no questions in the chat or in the Q&A so far. Oh, wait. Okay. Terry, you use a 6mm rad line, like an Eldred rad line?
I like the, yeah, I like the Edelrid one. This is a Petzl one. I like the Edelrid one even better because that one, you can fold it in half, and I have the 40 in the Edelrid. I would honestly also get the 60. That's what I would go with and what I would recommend. I have had this rad line for a really long time, and this is no longer my go-to. It's a nice secondary. I'll carry the 40 and a 30, but the Edelrid, it is called a wrap line. It's confusing. It is awesome because you can double them up and tie in with 2 strands as you would like a twin rope system. And it can handle 1 lead fall, which is great. So it feels like a much better tool for a varied environment. So if you are going into something steep and you're like, oh, I might get into an icy section. Yeah, it's exceptional. It's a really good tool. So recommended. That would be top pick for a ski rope for sure. It's blue. It's a little bit stiffer. It handles really well. Cool. Yeah, great question. Okay, I think that's halfway through my tips here. The next thing is then major differences because you're now dealing with a 6 millimeter rope. Get this out of the way. You can't, Pro 6, actually, I will say the hollow block from Sterling works pretty well, but as many of you probably remember, you get a better bite on a rope when you have a big difference in diameter from one rope to the other. The reason the hollow block works pretty well is that it's woven, so that squishes a little bit better. But there's if you use another round piece of material, it's not going to work as well. So often you are then required to carry a microtraction and a tib lock. So here we are. Let's pretend this is my skis. Okay, skis, that's my ski anchor. I'm going to rappel and then climb back up. This. These will be the things that I use primarily. I have a microtraction, modern one, that's crucial, not an old school one. An old school one does not have this little plasticky bit here. And that is really important. It has changed the angle, but an old school tib lock will core shot or desheath your rad line at some point, guaranteed. Don't do it. So old silver metal one, don't use it. Get this one. Then microtraction, good down to 6 millimeters or so it tells us. Actually, it says 8 to 11, but that is it is a standard. I can look for that elsewhere, but that is totally normal. And then this is a Edelrid Mago 8 figure 8. It's an old-fashioned design, old-fashioned kind of belay or rappel device, but in a tinier format, and it is rad. This thing, okay. Yep. This will allow me, you might use an extension, a variety of things as normal, but I'll just show you this setup for now of this lovely device here. This Mago goes through, I'll rappel in this direction, seeing all right. So you go through just like a standard figure 8 and around. Then you clip this again, lock it, and you have a rappel device. And what's super cool about the Mago 8 is you have a variety of, you can see it all right. You have a variety of traction, of friction modes. So you can add tension or friction that way and that way. And it's really easy to do so as you descend. You can add or release tension. You can also lower off of this. It's just a really great device. This goes on my, this earns its keep on my harness in a ski mountaineering scenario. So that's what we do. The reason we're not using the reverso is that often they are not, they're just not quite enough grip or friction for a 6 millimeter line. So you do end up needing something with a little more. Okay. Then you've got various options. You're going to use these tools in a variety of ways, but the way to climb back up is going to be microtraction. It might include clipping to you in some way here. That way. Okay, so you might be there, and then there's your, make sure you set it, and you can put yourself on a pulley system of sorts. A little better, that looks all right. So lots of things you can do. You can set up yourself on a 3-to-1, pull yourself up. and then slide. So you can see just how simple you can make things, but you do need these fancy devices. So those are the main differences with a crevasse rescue in a ski scenario. Questions from all of that?
Wow, that was really cool. What was the belay device used again? What was that called?
Mago.
Pop it in the chat. The Mega.
MAGO from Edelrid. And you've got that, there's like a little micro wrap thing there too for tiny ropes.
Cool.
They're rad. Oh, it's a Mago. Rad line. Rad line. Cool, Mago. And what I can, let me also drop in the chat. There are great resources from Petzl. If you go to, actually, I will just go ahead. I'm just going to show everyone how I Google this so you know how to get there. Here's this desktop. Okay. Great. So y'all got that. Go to Petzl. Petzl.com. Oh, no. I'm going to better. Petzl Crevasse Rescue. Crevasse Rescue #1. Transferring the victim's weight. Then there's tech. So these are your tech tips. This is the best way I've figured out how to get there. Find the tech tips. And you can scroll through by activity. I believe this is, yeah. So if you go to ski touring, they will also have your rescue there. And there you have an example. You notice that they are traveling with the rope off the ground. That is good practice so that you don't fall so far, because it is a skinny rope. It's more static, but it is recommended in their materials, as they're displaying here, to have that rope much tighter. So it's not super fun. Rope management, critical. So there's your RAD system, how it's used, RAD line, rappel, and that's cool. And then you have, where are we? One crevasse, 1, 2, and 3. So these are great resources. And here, I will drop the link to this in the chat. These are, you got it already. Oh no, that's the old one. Here, I'll put this in for everyone. Grab that. These are excellent resources. You'll notice their recommendations also here on how to tie the ropes together. This is one of the ways. They actually have an 8 there, which is interesting. Yeah, lots of specifics to get used to with crevasse rescue on skis with skinny ropes. All right, what questions are there in the crowd?
Questions in the crowd.
We answered them all. This is great.
Wow, that was a great presentation.
That can't be the case, but hopefully, what was the device above the microtraction? Oh, tib lock. This one, I added this little fabric to it so I could clip it and just carry it a little easier. But this is the tib lock from Petzl also. And the modern iteration, there's an old one that has just all metal, but this addition of this plastic bit that does that is crucial and helpful. It helps to not core shot skinny ropes or any ropes really. Importantly, one thing y'all might be familiar with is we used to say you had to flip the rope. Read your materials. When you get these materials that are starting to push the boundaries of what we understand about general mountaineering equipment, read your manuals. Like, seriously, I always do. I don't assume anything as things change, because they do change rapidly, and best practices change with them. So one of those best practices, and one to keep up on, is we were all taught, or many of us were taught, when you clip a tib lock, in order to not core shot your rope, you had to clip it like this. When you clip it like this on a skinny rope, it doesn't get as good of a grip. And it is actually recommended to flip it the opposite way, so you get more of a bite. And that's with the modern tib lock. So read your manuals, because like this could change again when they change the design. Like, materials are actually evolving pretty quickly. So if that makes sense, this is one of the things that's really, we're starting to get into things that are like really good to practice and see in person. So that difference there, you're clipping in this way, the rope goes through the carabiner from one side to the other. In this way, it never goes through the carabiner, and it's pinned in place in the tib lock. So that is a better grip for a skinny rope. Good questions. What else we got?
Sorry, what else we got? Anna asked if there is a good company or class that offers courses for learning all the different knots. There are so many great resources about learning knots online. And if you get a length of rope and pull up that either Grog Knots app or the animatedknots.com, there's a lot you can accomplish just in your own living room with the repetition. Like, listen to a podcast and just tie knots, and maybe tie them before bed, like Lyra mentioned. What would you say, Lyra?
Yeah, I think like our crevasse rescues are great, except that if you come to them without knowing these knots, you're just going to be like distracted by learning the knots the whole time. So the apps and the videos are the best bet. The key with the videos is what I like about the one you used. What was the one? Animated?
Animatedknots.com.
Yeah, that's a good one. And for similar reason as Grog Knots, they use effective use. They have effective use of color, and like you can with Grog Knots, you can go from one frame to the next. So that's a really great one. And I would say just practice, spend time with it, and then come out for a course. But spend a lot of time with it, because it's not worth the money and time to arrive with, and then just be distracted by the knots and things.
Ellie has a good question about how likely it is you'll be able to get someone out if they're wedged pretty deep.
I can't answer that in any like helpful way, other than that's super real. It's a very real risk in ski mountaineering. I think that skiing on glaciers without a rope is really taken for granted. I personally try to just go, or personally always just try to go at times when it's appropriate. I also frequent places that I know well, and if I'm new to an area, I will rope up on the way up. And if it's new terrain or a new glacier, or even just the start of the season, or even just I haven't been there for a week, I will rope up going uphill and probe out places for breaks, for example, and then I will come back to them, and I'll situate people in those same spots. It's just super real. It's not to be taken for granted. You will likely be wedged, or take a really big fall to the bottom of a crevasse, and to be avoided. Yeah, a little grim answer. Sorry. Also, it's fun.
On a happier note, brighter note, ski crampons in the Pacific Northwest, required gear. What are your thoughts?
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. Always make sure you have them. Even just for like wind packed snow, but in a ski mountaineering scenario, absolutely. And wherever you can is in some situations, it's more efficient to just boot. The trouble and another reason to bring the ski crampons is that you might have really punchy snow, and you don't want to be on you're keeping your skis on your feet on a glacier. offer tremendous security. So that is kind of the lighter note of all of this, is with good navigation and planning and doing your due diligence on the way up, your skis give you tremendous protection against a crevasse fall because of the way that they spread out your body weight. So those ski crampons become another measure of safety, and I will not take someone on a trip that doesn't have them, because they disrupt our whole risk management plan. If I have one person on a trip that didn't bring their ski crampons and the rest of us did, then I have to rope up the moment that person can't grip and glide, and they need to put on ski crampons for that in-between zone of conditions, then I have to rope them up, because now you're on boots and you went from skis to a tiny little boot that can definitely, like, it's not appropriate to walk up a glacier unroped, unless, I mean, people do it, they solo it. You have to get a special permit to do so on Mount Rainier on the DC route, for example. But yeah, does that make sense? So that difference, like majorly different risk management from that simple gear difference, not having it.
Nice. Should I talk a little bit about next steps?
I think so. Yeah, I think we're on to.
Nice. As we are coming to a close, I have a couple of next steps to share. If you are interested in taking what Lyra just shared into the field, we do have that brand new one-day ski crevasse rescue seminar. I'll pop it in the chat along with the code. Dun, 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 the code. We're offering this, I think we have one in March and then 2 in April. So a great refresher, or if this is your first time doing a crevasse rescue in a ski mountaineering context, a great way to refine your skills and build upon them. Okay, and then the code, dun, da, 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 what I decided was ski crack 25. And you can just pop that in the, when you register, in the notes for our program staff. We do all the billing manually because we're a pretty small company. We're actually the biggest guiding company, but we have a small staff. They'll take off 10%.
And you'll make Mary laugh every time that
yeah,
code comes.
Like, oh, ski crack, hilarious. Yeah, so we offer that. If you are feeling like you want to get into ski mountaineering, but you're not feeling quite confident and want to go out with one of our certified ski guides, or one of our IFMGA guides like Lyra, we offer a 3-day ski descent of Mount Baker. Super fun. Depending on what the conditions are doing, you'll either go to the north side up the Coleman-Deming or the south side of Eastern Glacier. Just kind of depends. And then we also do a 2-day ski descent of Mount Adams. Depending on how the group is doing, you'll either be the Southwest Rib, that was called? The South Rib? South side, the south side.
Of Adams.
Or the Southwest Chutes. Kind of
yep. Yeah, south side, South Spur.
South side, South Spur, South. Yeah, they're both really great. Lyra, since you guide both those trips, any like, I don't know, things you like about those 2 programs in particular?
They're pretty great. I find like Adams is a lot like Mount Shasta. It's ultra classic, ultra fun, and it puts a lot of pieces together. And if you feel like you're not quite jazzed for the glaciated challenge just yet, Adams is non-glaciated on the south sides, both that and the Southwest Chutes. So that's a good option. Southwest Chutes is steep. It gets into the 40s, and it's ultra classic. It's like 3,000 feet. That one we only do if the conditions are perfect, obviously. Yeah, and it's rad.
And then I have compiled a couple of ideas. If you are feeling like you want to go out and do some ski mountaineering, and you want to go with like just your friends, some personal ski descents, I feel like I'm a good case study because I'm not a great skier, as Lyra can attest. I'm like exceedingly mediocre, and so I can vouch for all of these.
And exceedingly athletic.
I'm really not that good. So let me share my screen. Share screen. Okay, we'll present screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
Your snowfield stats.
Nice. Okay, this one is not, well, you're not getting to the top of anything. You're getting to the top of the Muir snowfield, but it's still a great day. It's a good single day. It's 9 miles round trip, around 4,700 feet of gain, non-technical. You can ski it almost all year round. That's why the turns all year people love it. Great day trip. The one thing to note about the Muir snowfield is, okay, how do I go forward? If the visibility is not so great, the navigation can be a little tricky because the natural fall line of the snowfield leads straight onto the Nisqually Glacier, and you're actually doing a bit of a gentle arc to get back to Paradise from Camp Muir. You don't need a climbing permit to do the Muir snowfield. You just need a climbing permit if you're going above Camp Muir. You do need to pay an entrance to get into Mountain Greener National Park. But it is a great first longer day foray on skis. Can recommend. Sort of the next step up from that would probably be Lewitt or Mount St. Helens via the worm flows. It's around 12 miles round trip, around 5,500 feet of gain. It doesn't get super steep. Near the rim, there's maybe a max of like 30 to 35 degrees. You can, if you get a good weather window, you can even ski it in the winter. But like, do like check the weather window. And through like early May. You can do it in a day really easily, just sleep at the trailhead. One thing to note is starting on May 15th, they only release 100 permits a day. I know Mother's Day, Mother's Day is the 11th. Why is it always busy? Huh. I don't know. All I know is sometimes it's really hard to get permits and everyone's in a dress. We'll circle back to that because now I have more questions than answers about
I think that is
hard.
I think that is the deal. It's like just before the permit, or unless they move the permit time.
Oh, maybe it's like just before the permit. There are a lot of
total
people,
zoo.
but it's easy to get a permit because they're not capping them.
They're
okay,
not capped.
I'm glad we're able to resolve that so I can get some sleep tonight.
But it's an entertaining carnival.
Yeah. And then the step above that would be Adams, like Lyra described earlier. It is not, the south side is non-technical, no crevasses there. So it's a great first, like proper, pretty big ski descent. Also really doable as a single day trip if you sleep at the trailhead, although you can do it over 2 days and sleep at the lunch counter.
Mary, is that me sleeping in the side of the photo?
Maybe. This is from, what is this, 22, I think?
I think so. Yeah, a few years ago.
And I did Helen's one day, not Helen's, Hood one day, and then Adams the next day. And I know I was very tired. I am not a mountain guide. I was not in guide shape, or never in guide shape.
You saved the day with putting coffee in my face, though.
Yeah.
Marathon.
Super great. A high clearance vehicle is pretty good to have to get to the trailhead. I've done it in a Prius before, so it can be done, but it is a little spicy. So keep that in mind. And then the step above Adams, much deeper, would be Hood or Y East via the south side. 8 miles round trip, 5,300 feet of gain. It can be very steep near the top. At 45 to 50 degrees. Does that sound right, Lyra?
Yeah, it's low. It's like low 40s in the old chute.
Yeah.
And it's great. That's the one you can see Mary booting up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Usually it's like a 2 ice axe situation, May through June, super doable to do in a day. I would say you should like to keep skiing. When we did it together, we got to the top, I was like, oh, this is pretty steep. So yes, it is.
And we had it in really good, we had it in great conditions. Last year I tried again and just completely bailed because it was ice. Like we just nailed sweet conditions. It was great.
Yeah. And then something that I didn't put on my little mini slideshow is the Nisqually Chutes at Mount Rainier. That is also really great ski descent. I have not done it. Lyra, can you talk a little bit about about the Nisqually Chutes?
Yeah, also a fun steep, like comparable to it's like a shorter version of the Southwest Chutes, but similarly steep for a little ways. You get into it. Getting into it is not necessarily easy, except that people do it by mistake because it is the fall line, more or less. So really important to be comfortable getting to the top of something steep and like being able to do a downhill kick turn and get out of it if you're not in the right spot or you don't like the conditions. So kind of sporty, quite sporty and ultra fun. Fall line steep, maybe 40-ish skiing. And then the crux is often you can get down low, so you have to like boot or ski or skin back up and out around Glacier Vista and then ski back down. But very fun one when conditions are good.
Okay, cool. That's all I got. Anything else from you, Lyra? At 6 o'clock.
I think that's it. Other than that, we were just discussing, I know we were talking about like good resources and there, you've already mentioned turns all year. And when we were thinking about other things, I really like the Where is Kyle Miller website for inspiration. Beautiful photos from Jason Hummel on that one. And yeah, just some cool inspiration. Lots of classics to be added here. Also actually like randomly, but I definitely recommend, where is this book? Written in the Snows, Lowell Skoog, famous local mountaineer who's effectively like observed climate change in his long career of just traveling through the mountains on skis in the Cascades. And he's logged in, he's like an engineer by training, and he's logged all of the traverses and things he's done meticulously over the years and has shown how he has had to do them earlier and earlier in the season, which is interesting. His sons, who I just got to work with recently on a professional training program, is a guide for RMI. So might see him kicking around. He's a delightful human. But yeah, mountain family, that one was some interesting. And that book talks about the ski industry as it has evolved in this state. So it's super cool.
Very cool.
Recommended.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for taking time out of your Wednesday evening to talk ski mountaineering with us. Okay. One final question from me to you, Lyra. What ski descent is living rent free in your head these days?
Oh, I have been really wanting to just do the simple traverse in my backyard here from the Icicle to Stevens Pass. That's like top of my to-do list right now. How about you?
I really want to ski Glacier Peak this year. Kind of a long approach, but it'll be great. And then this is a total aside, but another Alpine Ascents guide who is out in somewhere in Colorado, he and another Alpine Ascents guide, Stephen Williams, just did the first ever winter traverse of something called the Fluffy Bunny Traverse. It sounded absolutely insane. I can drop it in the chat. They shared photos. I was like, what? He's attempted it a couple of times. I guess it was super gnarly weather. It's just, yeah, it's not fluffy at all.
Fluffy bunny.
Scary, scary bunny.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah. Okay, I'll pop it in the chat and then we'll say, oh, okay, it's not working if I Google it. It's too obscure.
That's probably obscure. I'm
curious. Just email Alpine Ascents and I'll tell you what it is.
Call the office line and said, Mary talked about the Fluffy Bunny Traverse.
Yes.
Can you patch me through? I like it.
Very cool. Well, on that note, yeah, Terry, I don't know. It's real, I promise. It's in the San Juan, so I don't know.
Hey, let's find out.
Okay.
Give us a call. Yeah.
Email me
We'll
at alpineascents mbrown@alpineascents.com, and I will send you a track so you can attempt it as
That's
well.
lovely, buddy.
Cool. Well,
Fantastic.
on that note, thank you all so much. This webinar has been recorded, so we'll post it on the Alpine Ascents blog in probably a couple days for you to refer back to. Definitely check out the Ski Crevasse Rescue Seminar. It's gonna be awesome. Brand new program that me and Lyra developed, and that's it. Happy skiing. Enjoy the snow. Bye.
Hope to see y'all out there.